We have a very special guest joining our show today. This is Rob from Digital Asset News, one of the largest crypto YouTube channels. He is joining us. So, Rocco, let's go ahead and patch him in. There he is. Hey, Rob, how you doing?
Hey, gents, how are you?
Good. By the way, I'm David. The gentleman in the Ola shirt is also Rob, but we're going to call him Robin so we don't get the names confused here.
That sounds good. Well, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you for making the time. Do you mind spending maybe a minute and telling our guests or telling our community what made you start your show and kind of your journey through crypto and kind of what you guys do over there at Digital Asset News?
Why I started this show. I started the show because everybody was getting sick of hearing about crypto, all my family and friends. So I said, I better just talk to other people who are maybe like-minded like me. And I started up a YouTube channel. There was half of that, and the other half was just really essentially boredom. Because as I was going through, I have a couple different businesses. One's an online education platform for nursing students. The other one is Amazon FBA. The other one is a sports facility, which I don't even run. So it was kind of like, I was almost to the point of like mini retirement, which for people who are watching the show, never retire. It is the most boring thing you can possibly do. You must always challenge yourself. And like it sounds awesome, doesn't it? Like, well, I'll just sit at home, maybe play some golf, maybe do some traveling, whatever else. It sucks. It sucks. You must always have some kind of challenges in life. So that's why the channel came about. But then to answer your question about why crypto, I got into crypto actually it was in 2012 when my son came home and he said, "Hey, I got this great deal. There's a kid who's got a hard drive and it's 500 Bitcoin for $500. Do you want to do it?" And I said, "Alan, what the hell's a Bitcoin?" And he explained it to me. And I was like, that makes absolutely no sense. That's never going to take off. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And I passed on it. Because I didn't know exactly what it was. And of course, I don't know how much 500 Bitcoin is worth right now. Tens of millions. A lot of money. But it doesn't even matter. That was my first foray into crypto. Even if I had bought it at $500, as soon as each Bitcoin went for twice that at $1,000, I would have sold. I guarantee I would have sold, just like everybody else out there, because you don't really know what it could potentially do. So, I mean, that was my first one. Then I got it back into 2017. I thought, well, these numbers are going up. I like that part. So I will invest in the crypto. And I went in, as a lot of people do during a parabolic bull run, bought Bitcoin at 6,500, 9,000, 17,500, and then watched everything just erode like crazy in 2018 as everything went down. Because I was listening to the people that were most prevalent in 2017, 2018, which was Bitcoin's going to the moon. You have the diamond hands. It's going to 250,000, $500,000 or $1 million. And I listened to those people and I believed those people. Little did we know that those people lie to you. And that's when I said to my wife, look, we went in pretty heavy. So we got two options here. We could sell it all and take a big haircut, or we could do this thing called dollar cost averaging and just keep buying and just see where it goes. And I told her, I said, I'm not in the business of losing money. And we kept doing it. And then we kept buying Bitcoin at, 4,000, 5,000, Cardano at 7 and 8 cents, Ethereum at 300, 400. And it just seemed to work out. And now here we are. And I think right now where we're all at and the people that are watching the show, I think this is kind of comparable to the 2018 timeframe, which is where everything's down. And I don't see this going to zero, especially as we get a lot of institutions and banks and even the U.S. government deciding what's a security, what's a commodity. None of this stuff happened back then. So you have all this happening. I feel like this is just a repeat of the 4-year cycles, and I'm excited to do it again. So that's my story.
No, the interesting thing is that, compared to the previous cycles, this bear market, you don't seem to hear so much, is crypto going to come back? I think that's a foregone conclusion that the top or premier assets, particularly Bitcoin and say Ethereum, are here for the long term. And so, if you have the HODL mentality, I think you can rest assured that, 2-3 year hodl is a good way to go. Question: are you do you part ways with any of your Bitcoin and perhaps like when the market is like
Yes.
overbought? So you do, because I think a lot. My thing as of lately is that we have this hodl culture mentality, and I just don't. I don't necessarily agree that that's the best strategy across the board. I mean, just to simply buy no matter how high the price is, and then just hodl forever. And so I think DCA in, and then more importantly DCA out is something that I've become more accustomed to as of lately.
And I don't get the people that shun people who take profits. Like, what's wrong with taking profits? So, right? I mean,
No, it's right. You guys, where were you guys in 2017, 2018? When I was listening to all these crazy crackpots were like, you got to hold forever and never sell.
never sell.
know.
Yeah, me and David actually used to work together in a restaurant here in Las Vegas, and we were the crypto guys that you couldn't get us to shut up about crypto. So then
Annoying to a certain
and
extent.
then during the bull run, everyone started coming at us, from every direction, every side. We're like, whoa! And so that's what inspired us to launch
We're
our
like,
channel
maybe we
as
should
well.
spend some money and open a studio.
Yeah,
Anyways, all right, Rob. Well, let's get into some talking points here. So, Rocco, go ahead and pull up my laptop. The first article we're going to talk about is the Nomad token bridge, which was drained of $190 million in funds in a security exploit. The Nomad token bridge, a bridge to have experienced a security exploit that has allowed hackers to systematically drain a significant portion of the bridge's funds over a long series of transactions, nearly $190.7 million in crypto, which is pretty much the entire liquidity locked up in that bridge. They later suggested, though, that some of the funds were withdrawn by white hat friends who took the funds out and with the intention of safeguarding them. And then, if you're not familiar with Nomad, they are a token bridge that allows transfers of tokens and messages between Avalanche, Ethereum, Milk Meta, and Moonbeam. So, Rob, do you mind share your thoughts? Share your thoughts on this token bridge. We're seeing a lot of this. We saw Ronin, we saw the Harmony One. Is this something that can come back from?
have you even heard of Nomad before this as well? Like another question.
No.
No, it's another bridge project, and I think bridge projects. I mean, just for the ability to go cross chain and to pull things in, and it's almost like remember back in the day when you would have like different cell phone services. I mean, imagine how crazy this would be if you're like, hey, what kind of cell phone service do you have? Well, I have AT&T. Okay, what do you have? Well, I have Verizon. Well, we can't talk because you're not on the same service as I am. And that's kind of like what bridges are supposed to do. The problem with bridges is that there's been so many different hacks. How do you trust any of them? And it's a funny thing because right before I was talking to you guys, I was talking to Ken Oling. He's one of the founders and the CEO of Meld, which is based off of Cardano. He talked about working with Avalanche and being that bridge between those protocols and also Matic. And he goes, look, you have to understand, he goes, this will eventually be the future. Just right now, I mean, notwithstanding, if we're going to talk about Nomad, I don't know what exactly is going on, but it seems like, and what you just said about there's some white hat hackers who were there to take the money and hold on to it for safekeeping.
Right.
I mean, that sounds super sketchy. There's that part. There's also the part of, I know that there was a mixer was used to channel out these funds. And I also know that they're working with some type of team to, look at the on-chain metrics. So I don't know what it is enough to comment on it, but I can just tell you that bridges will probably be this future. The problem is, and this is what me and Ken were saying, is that who would you rather trust these days? Some centralized exchanges, some lending protocols that are in charge of by people, but just regular Joe Blow, you and me, CeFi, or would you actually put a little bit more of your faith into a DeFi protocol? Well, not DeFi like this. This is ridiculous, right?
Right.
But as time moves on, I think the projects that move slow, that do the audits, that do the right things will be the winners in the long run. And then these types of things will just go away. Imagine And what we and Ken were talking about was, imagine if you could have everything on the blockchain. He goes, you are being audited 24/7, 365. He goes, imagine if you had every type of bank transaction and everything that like JP Morgan does that everybody could look at any part of the day. There would be no more spoofing of precious metals. There would be no more of this money laundering. There'd be so many different people that are looking at it and safeguarding it. It wouldn't happen. I think that's what we're going to eventually get to. The problem is you have to get through all of this nonsense, which is just essentially a cash grab. And who knows I'm not going to talk, I'm not going to say what it is because I don't know enough about this actual hack, but I see where things are going. It's not, crypto is not letting us down. It's the centralized players that have. And look at the ones that are doing the right things, like an Aave, like a Compound, that are still here. Not much of an issue. So we move forward.
It's well said. I think a lot of people are just putting in just blind trust when it comes into smaller projects that haven't been tested or haven't built a reputation. And the fact that they were in charge of that amount of money is surprising to me. I think a lot of people, if you take a minute just to step back and think about what a project is offering and kind of apply it to something that maybe you're more familiar with that you can relate to, I think things start to make sense. In the same way that you're like, if somebody's investing in a meme coin, for as an example, I'm like, hey, well, have you ever just bought a stock in a company that is named after an animal, or a cartoon character? Like, it seems kind of foolish, right? And in the same way with when it comes to token bridges, I like to, obviously, where I keep my crypto or my tokens, obviously a hardware wallet is the best practice. But, if you have your tokens on, say, the Ethereum network, then you have some on the Binance network, those are two different, basically custodials at that moment. And so if you were to apply that to your real world application, if you were to say, hey, I have money in Bank of America and I have money in Wells Fargo, and you know what? I'm going to trust a third party and I'm going to give them access to my Bank of America account. I'm going to give them access to my Wells Fargo account. And then I'm just going to trust them to transfer money back and forth. Now, a lot of people, if you were to give them that option, like, hey, would you like to plug in this company to access both of your bank accounts and transfer money between? But like, that would seem kind of as an unnecessary risk. And so
that's what the Fed does now.
Yeah.
But that's the federal, but that's,
But, most importantly, we're starting to see is that, it's all about the code here. And, there's always this big pushback when it comes to Ethereum with, the delays that they've had on their merge, Cardano with their slow roadmap. And, it kind of shows you that these projects have stayed around and haven't taken as many punches as, say, some of the newer projects. And, this mentality of, hey, maybe build it right the first time, research, test, and it seems to be working for the most successful players.
Here's the problem is people want to get rich fast. And, Rob brought up a good point. You said the ones that take their time, and as soon as you said that, the first project came to mind was Cardano. They have been bullied on the internet about taking their time, not just by community members and people on Twitter, but also you got Anatoly Yakovenko, who's the founder of Solana, over here saying Cardano's taking their time. So
I have did you see the Charles Hoskinson? Here, I'll pull it up. So the Charles Hoskinson had a little brief update on his the Vassal hard fork. And so for that, they obviously announced a delay. I think it was yesterday. So it's just a delay by a few weeks, but this is kind of an insight when it comes into the programming procedures that is developing an upgrade or hard forking. And so this is just maybe a different perspective on how things are done.
Were underway. A collection of bugs were found, 3 separate bugs that resulted in 3 new versions of the software. And now we have 135.3, which looks like it is going to be the version that will survive the hard fork and upgrade to Vassal. There's a big retrospective that will be done, but long short is that the ECDSA primitives and amongst a few other things are not quite where they need to be. And so that feature has to be put aside, but all of the remaining features, SIP 31, 32, 33, SIP 40, and other such things are pretty good. So those are in advanced stages of testing, and then a lot of downstream components have to be tested, like DB Sync and the serialization library and these other things. And that's currently underway, and a lot of testing is underway. as I mentioned before, this is the most complicated upgrade to Cardano in its history because it includes both changes to the programming language, Plutus, as well as changes to the consensus protocol and a litany of other things. And it was a very loaded release. It had a lot in it. And as a result, it's one that everybody had a vested interest in thoroughly testing. And the problem is that every time something is discovered, you have to fix it, but then you have to verify the fix and go back through the entire testing pipeline. So you get to a situation where you're feature complete.
So that's a different outlook on how to test your blockchain, and you can make an argument like, hey, how was the protocol built for Nomad? I don't know enough about the project. I don't know if you do, if you know anything about it, but obviously,
they were supposed to be very secure. But my question is, Rob, I want to. At what point do you draw the line of, okay, take your time, make sure everything's perfect, versus at some point you got to launch this,
or do
thing
you just
and
not
gotta see
draw
how
a
it
line?
works?
I don't care about the line. If it takes 20 years to make it right, then so be it. If you're going to replace traditional finance, if you're going to replace the Visa network as something that grand, then if it takes 10, 20 years to do, then so be it.
Do you draw, Rob? Do you draw a line? And if you do, where's that line?
So it's difficult. I think that's what everybody's asking, right? Like, who's got the fastest horse and who's going to make it? I don't think anybody can say for 100% assurance of which one will actually be here. So for me to say, well, you're just slow. I mean, look, I still hold Ethereum, and nobody is slower than Ethereum to get to where they're trying to go. I had on Simon Dixon from Bank of the Future. He talked about this Celsius reshuffle. And he talked about how when he first got into Ethereum, it was during the ICO. And in the white paper, they talked about how it was proof of work, but in a month or so, they're going to go to proof of stake. And I was like, really? He said, yeah, that's how long it's been. So like for me, I just take a look and say, well, who is actually making advancements? And you can take a look at GitHub. You can take a look at the developer activity. And right now, I mean, I hold a lot of Cardano. We even have a Cardano stake pool here at DNews. But I'm not going to say that Cardano is going to be the end-all, be-all, and it's going to win everything. I think that's a little crazy. So I will just kind of spread my money around dollar cost average. So like the Ethereums and the Polkadots and the Avalanches and the Cardanos and even the Solanas. Because who knows who's going to be responsible for what. So I just take a look at it and go, okay, which one of these is as far as like a layer one. Now getting it down into like for Nomad and those types of tokens or it's just a bridge project. So for me, I've learned my lesson as far as the risky part. It's not how much you make in this industry, it's how much you're able to keep. Because once Celsius did that pull, and once Voyager had the issue, and once Volt had the issue, I have received nothing but a plethora of direct messages and emails and comments about people who lost their life savings, who can't pay the rent, who have to tell their kids they're not going to go to college because they just blew all their money on those types of things. So for me personally, I don't care if I'm going to miss out on the next 20, 50, 250x. I just want to just have my consistent gains. And that's where I think just what your risk tolerance is. And for me, it's pretty low these days.
And that's a great point. And people's time horizons are so low. It's just this whole, you hear this story, oh, this guy invested in Dogecoin and he made, $1 million. That is not practical. And well, I believe, with what you're talking about with Polkadot, Cardano, all these layer ones that have been around that, that are large cap, in the long run, in my opinion, you'll do better if you just put your money in there and be patient versus try to chase the next 200x coin. Great points. I want to move on to the next little article here. If you want to pull up my laptop, Rocco. AMP token dives as Binance US unveils its delisting following the SEC claim that it is a security. If you're not familiar with AMP, they are part of the Flexa network. They're essentially they facilitate payments. Binance delisted them based off of, and I know, Rob, you've talked about this on your show a lot with the SEC probe into Coinbase. Binance announced that it will delist the token out of an abundance of caution after the SEC alleged that it was a security. Was this the right move, or did Binance jump the gun? Rob, what are your thoughts?
I don't know. I don't know if what this was all about jumping the gun. Well, I've had talks with Binance and where they're trying to go, and you have to understand that they already are approached by regulators, and they're like, again, I think they're in it for the long haul, and they're like, well, I don't want to be on the bad side of the regulators, so I'm just going to just delist it, because I don't want to come down and have a bunch of fines for listing an unregistered security. Now, you can take a look at that and say, well, that would be everybody, wouldn't it? I expect more exchanges to follow, quite honestly. And I mean, the bigger question really is, does the SEC have the authority to say this is a security, this is not a security? No, they're not. They're not lawmakers. They're the enforcement agencies. So that is up to U.S. Congress to write those bills legally to define what is a commodity, a security, a currency, and so on and so forth. So did I think they jumped the gun? I would have done the same thing, quite honestly. I mean, if I want to move in the right direction, and some people might say, well, that's not the whole focus of crypto. Look, I mean, at the end of the day, it's a business. And if you want to move forward, you have to look at the greater good. So I would have done the same thing.
But don't you see an issue, right? If this pattern continues and every time the SEC comes out and says, hey, this is a security, and these exchanges start delisting right away, isn't that giving the SEC too much power to know that, hey, if we can't regulate it because we can't get a law passed or whatever the case may be, we'll just say this is security, and they'll just delist it, which will accomplish what they want to accomplish
Like
anyway.
this one though is, you know, if you're trying to mitigate risk, I mean, the profit margin on AMP is significant, is probably just, you know, a drop in the bucket when it, you know, compares Bitcoin, Ethereum. So I mean, it makes sense that they would, you know, throw their hands up on this one. But yeah, you know, to double down on what David said about, like, you know, what happens if they're basically, you know,
Ethereum's a security. Or is
they're
everyone
pushing,
gonna-
you know, larger projects. You know, say Cardano, you know, if we're on the Cardano subject, you know, what happens if they try to, you know, tighten the wrench on that, for an example. So
I don't know. What do you think, Rob? Are you worried that it's going to set a precedence?
So, well, first of all, for them to set a precedent, again, they're not the lawmakers, but they are doing regulation through enforcement. Then you have to also look at the flip side. Who also came out and contradicted them? Well, the Department of Justice came out and said that they're not securities. And the CFTC did the exact same thing. So it starts the conversation about, okay, now we have to get into the free market. Now we have to decide what exactly it is. The SEC can keep doing it, and they can keep going. Does that mean that they're going to be unabridged and just be able to do whatever they want to? I think there's going to be a point. They're not going to come in and say, okay, all 9,000 of these besides Bitcoin is now a security. I don't think that's going to happen. I mean, it could. Who knows? It's crypto. But at some point, there's going to come a point where these laws, especially like with the one that's coming about with Gildebrand and Lummis, to define what exactly is a commodity and a security will come through. And then we can just say, yeah, that's exactly what it is. So no, I don't think, I mean, you can say that, yeah, the SEC is definitely going to do this, but I don't think they can do that with every single crypto. And then all the other different agencies are going to say, yeah, go right ahead, SEC, do whatever you want to. The CFTC and the SEC are already butting heads.
Are you in the camp of like the Michael Saylor camp where everything's a security except Bitcoin, or do you think it goes deeper than that?
So, first of all, let's be honest. Let's be honest. Michael Saylor is a little bit biased. Okay,
Yeah.
Just a little bit, right?
And he can say he's not. But even on my channel, I'm like, look, guys. When I go through the daily list of all the tokens, I get excited about some that are up because guess what? I own them, and I'm biased, and that's just the God's honest truth. So for Michael Saylor to come out, I think he sees it through a Bitcoin lens, as well as Bitcoin maxis also see it through the lens. And do I think that the Howey test, which was created in 1933, can actually correspond to everything as far as digital assets and cryptocurrency and decide what is a commodity and what is a security and what is a financial contract? I don't think it really can. think there has to be something else out there. So for me to say that everything's a security besides Bitcoin would be a little short-sighted. And I don't know enough to really put that in and say, yes, it definitely is or is not.
There is an interesting petition going around to get rid of Gary Gensler. It's got 19,000 signatures. It needs another 71,000 for it to be considered.
What's that say? You like cut off the head of the snake, like that 3 more appear or something? I don't
All
think
I
I don't
know
think
is-
that the SEC is going to pivot just because of the
second
chair.
in command, the commissioner, Hester Pierce, aka Crypto Mom. Obviously, he's very crypto friendly, so we'll see. Now, Rob, I know we got 5 more minutes left with you. So the last one I want to talk about is Cardano. Cardano staking is now supported by the Swiss bank. Sygnum Bank, the first regulated digital asset bank in the world, has added support for Cardano staking. Now, I want to take this into more of a broad conversation. And Robin and Rob, feel free to give your opinion. But do you think custody, like traditional bank custody, is something needed for mass adoption in the crypto space, or do you think that just completely goes against everything cryptocurrency stands for? What are you guys' thoughts?
Well, I'll start. I'm always circle back to the adoption of cryptocurrency when it comes to my parents, particularly my dad. He is a long-term investor, just has zero exposure when it comes to cryptocurrency. And I think a lot of it comes with the adoption curve. Basically having to understand how the tokens work, what is an exchange, hardware wallet, a browser wallet. And all of that is very new to him. It seems as though he doesn't have the interest in learning it at this point in time. And, and honestly, it is a pretty big rabbit hole to go down. And if you are set financially, it might not be some undertaking that you want to handle. And so, with that said, I could also see that if the services that he's comfortable using, aka a bank or an investment fund, if they start offering crypto services in a platform that is easy to understand and mitigates risk pretty much with just a simple fee for being a custodial or perhaps a transfer fee, I think that is the path to get massive adoption when it comes to the retail sector and to bring in all of the new people that perhaps have an interest in crypto, just however they lack the understanding of how to custody and purchase it themselves. So I think this is going to be one of many stories to come as far as partnerships between blockchains and traditional banks. And I think this is going to be the gateway to the next bull run. And I think, maybe like Bank of America, maybe some of the large European banks will lead the way.
For me personally, real quick, I think with what happened with Voyager, Celsius, trust has been eroded in the retail space. I don't think the self-custodial option is easy enough for the average non-crypto enthusiast investor to be able to do. So I think it is very, very important that you have these commercial banks that people have their money with, that they've had their money with for a long time, that they trust, to jump into the custodian space. Rob, what's your take?
So I used to think kind of along the same way that you guys thought. I used to say to myself, well, let's say you got a single mom with 3 kids and she's working 2 jobs. What's the chances that she's going to have to learn it? And that's what I really thought. And then as time has gone along, and we saw what happened with Celsius and Voyager and Bald, I can guarantee you that single mom with 2 kids or 3 kids and 2 jobs would have really liked to learn how to self-custody. I know people say, well, it's difficult. It's really not that difficult. If you can do a wire transfer from a bank, you can self-custody. And I think there's a bigger issue with, you have to learn a little bit. Here's another example. What's harder to learn or harder to do? Write a letter or simple to do, write a letter and mail it, or just send off an email. Well, because I'm older, and I can remember learning how to do an email. It was kind of cumbersome at first, especially with crappy browsers that we used to have. But as time went on, it got easier. So I'm just telling you right now, like I know people say, well, it's a bit difficult, whatever else, but I really do think that once people get into it and they get their ledger and they're able to transfer it, and then thankfully, like with your phones these days, remember when that thing called COVID? I don't know if you guys have heard of this. There was a big pandemic called COVID. And
Wait, what?
Go out.
There was?
Yeah. There was this thing. Probably just in Louisiana. But what it taught you is how to scan everything. You'd scan for menus, you'd scan for parking, you'd scan for this. If you can do stuff like that, you can self-custody. Then also, whoever's watching this, if you guys don't understand, I got a free website, danteachescrypto.com. It's 100% free. I made it free. It'll always be free. And in module 2, I show you exactly what a private key, a public key, how to use a ledger, how to transfer off, and how to keep things safe. I can guarantee that what you guys had said about how this will lead us to the big retail rush and people will get into it and the banks will custody, it'll work until it doesn't, until some hack happens and they're like, what the hell? This is a big scam. It's not a scam. You should have been self-custodying the whole time. That's where I go.
That's interesting. Dan, we know you got to get out of here. We're going to drop the link to the website you just mentioned in the description of this video. Also, please go support the guests that take their time to come on this channel. They ask for nothing in return. All we ask of you as our community, go support them. Go follow him. The YouTube link is in the description. Also, pull up my laptop real quick, Rocco. Make sure you go follow Digital Asset News on Twitter. The handle is @NewsAsset. Post a lot of good stuff on there. Also, Rob, we really enjoy your content.
Yeah, man. I love your appearances with Invest Answers as well. That's always
James, me, James, and Ben are always doing the DCA show. It's hard because like Ben is so, or not Ben. Me and Ben are the same. We're pretty much bearish, but James is so bullish all the time. And we're like, James.
Do you mean Paul?
Huh?
You mean Paul?
Paul Barone?
Paul,
No.
yeah. Oh, okay, Ben. Okay.
Paul. Yeah. So like the last time it was me, James, and Paul Barone from the Paul Barone Network, but usually it's me, James from Invest Answers, and Ben from Into the Cryptoverse. And Ben's been around for a while, and James is like, it's bullish. This is good news. I'm like, hold on, man. But yeah.
he loves crypto. He loves Tesla too, man.
James?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Good guy.
You gotta
He's a
love
great
it.
guy.
You know what? All of those projects, Crypto General, Tesla. You know, it's obviously going to be a good hold. So, I mean, if it pulls back now, then who cares? You know. Yeah. So I get it, man. I love the bullish sentiment as well. So.
All right, Dan. Well, we truly appreciate you taking time out. Thank you so much. And we look forward to maybe bringing you on the show again in the future.
Yeah, man. Anytime you want to come on, man. Or if you're in Vegas, we also
we have a studio here in Vegas.
We got an extra seat next to David and an extra microphone.
Yeah. I used to live there. I got family there still, so I'll be out there at some point. Oh yeah.
Cool, man. Yeah. When you if you ever come out, please reach out to us. We'd love to have you come by the studio. Maybe take you to dinner or something. As a token of our appreciation.
All right.
All right.
Sounds good.
Take care, Rob. Thank you.
Have a good one. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Adios.
All right.